Here we are. Welcome, Kushbu, to Vibing with Stay Grey. The podcast is all about educating, inspiring, and transforming young lives out there, and to get an opportunity to talk with you since you are an phenomenal young person doing great things. You are in uni, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so we'd like for you to give us a brief introduction about yourself, and we'll dig deep into what you do.
So, hi everybody. My name is Kushbu. I am a fourth generation Kenyan.
Mm-hmm.
My passion lies in destigmatizing all things to do with mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I really enjoy doing community service. I'm a speaker. I spoke for TEDx in 2020 or 2021. Um, I'm a people's person. I love talking to people of any and all age groups. And that's just a little bit about who I am.
Wow, you talked to TEDx.
Yes.
You gave a talk. What were you talking about?
I talked about how I believe East Africa should have a single currency,
Mm-hmm.
even though there's a lot and a lot of corruption in Africa. I still think the countries in East Africa have a lot of potential and we can make it happen.
Yeah, definitely. And how's your mental health?
I am tired. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I have university that's starting on the 6th of September.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I traveled for a bit and I'm just recuperating from traveling, time difference.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Anxious about starting university because it's my third year.
Mm-hmm.
And besides that, I'm okay. I know in therapy we're not allowed to say I'm okay,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going, I'm living, I'm breathing, I'm surviving, I'm trying to be happy, all in one.
And that's all that matters. Yeah, so we're going to talk about Salama Minds. I'm quite interested. What led you to establish the NGO?
I remember growing up, my dad and I used to have talks about what I want to do for the community.
Mm-hmm.
I To him it was um good to be or to have extracurricular activities and be all rounded.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to sit and discuss about building libraries in Kibera,
Mm-hmm.
but that really wasn't my passion. Not that it's not a good thing to do for the community, but I really wanted to look for something that I was passionate about that I would follow up with, because in the world there's so many things going on, you have to find your focus.
Yeah.
So one time during COVID,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, the idea, I had an epiphany.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, why don't we start funding for youth therapy in Kenya?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason because of that is, number one, I started going to therapy when I was 15.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, therapy is very, very stigmatized in the African Indian communities.
Yeah, it is.
Number three, people don't cannot afford therapy because it is slightly and very expensive.
Yeah.
So my mom and I decided, my mom is the COO of Salama Mines. I am the
The
CEO.
CEO.
And we decided to found Salama Mines to provide affordable and accessible therapy with the aim of destigmatizing mental health in Kenya.
Well, that's awesome. I can second you in that therapy in Kenya, it can be quite costly to people who can't afford that kind of treatment. Therefore, we end up with so many tragedies. Actually, personally, from where I study, people usually struggle to get therapy. So that's why
Yeah.
I came up with a mental health club that can actually tap into therapists who are in nearby. so that they can get the free sessions from them. Actually, something I'm cultivating at the moment, but it's not quite successful yet. But yeah, getting therapy to people who can't get through it, it's quite, yes, it's costly to some people. And actually, it feels, yeah.
I'd also like to add that there's very, very many brilliant psychologists and psychiatrists in Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
And that also raises the issue of them not getting paid because, again, in the African communities, we don't believe in therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because I want to come back and work in Kenya, I
Mm-hmm.
think the government needs somebody strong-headed to come and say, hey, these kids or people in this country actually need therapy, needs to be a focus, not
Mm-hmm.
just the different probably disorders or health related issues. Therapy is a very, very big thing. And I think currently psychologists and psychiatrists in Kenya, they have to be in demand. They're not in demand.
Yeah, and because we have a lot of them graduating each year, but we are hopeful since the mental health pandemic, since 2020 actually had mental health being a big issue, and at least people started paying attention to their kids since people are confined in one place. So we got to have a chance to see other people's personality and actually get through it with them. So
It's
how, yeah,
actually crazy that it took a pandemic to make people realize, which is so, so crazy. But yeah, go ahead.
yeah, because since on the other days we are actually just get a chance to see our parents probably when they get out of work, and if they're leaving at dawn in the morning. So there's not that chance of interacting with our parents or even our siblings to even notice what people are going through. And actually started the podcast back then in the
Yeah.
pandemic, since I actually felt it. And I'm one person who usually keeps mental health at heart because, for one, I have suffered a lot and I never used to embrace therapy because I remember in high school, actually, it's my teacher, my English teacher, noticed that I wasn't performing well and my behavior just changed overnight. So I knew I needed help, but then I didn't want it. But when I started going to therapy, interacting with the psychiatrist and her listening to me and us getting to have a solution to my issues, I felt like it's something really, like people need to embrace it, especially the male gender. They feel like talking to someone is so feminine, and actually feel like advocate for men's mental health. They should really seek this.
I also, about therapy,
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest problem around the world, let alone in Africa, let alone in Kenya, is the label. When
Mm-hmm.
people hear mental health, all they can think of is, oh my God, crazy
Yes.
problem. But I really, my urge to people is to take a step back and really think about what mental health means. It's
Mm-hmm.
nourishing your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, how people go to the gym for physical well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Therapy is literally the same thing, but it's for your brain. Because your brain holds so much power.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even about, oh, you must have um major depressive disorder or
Mm-hmm.
very, very bad anxiety for you to have mental health. No,
Mm-hmm.
it starts with stress.
Mm-hmm.
Stress is something that can have very adverse effects on your brain, on your body. That's a mental health problem, but people don't think of it as it being a mental health. Stress is just, oh my God, yeah, like I'm stressed. But
Mm-hmm.
we don't really sit down to understand the effects of little things and how it can affect our brain. So in my opinion, I think therapy and stuff to do with mental health is just about how you're training and nourishing your brain.
Yes.
It's just like if you have diabetes and the doctor tells you to go to the gym, you're gonna go do that so that you don't suffer and struggle more. So people really need to step out of mental health means I'm crazy. Oh my God, I'm psychotic. No, it's so simple. You can be having a bad day and you just go and you talk to your therapist about it. And it's their job to help and guide and heal people, help you find solutions because they have studied how patterns and behaviors are. They can predict what's next for you. Yeah.
Yeah, having a mental, it's like just going to the doctor for a checkup.
Yeah.
Actually, that's what my therapist used to say. It's just like if you feel like you are overwhelmed, you just give her a call because it's just like I may be having a headache or a stomach ache. And what I usually do is go for a checkup. So it just applies the same way. If I'm feeling overwhelmed, or if I'm having a panic attack, it just makes sense to
And
talk to a therapist.
the best thing about therapy is you know, well, most of the times,
Mm.
you know that when you go in, you'll come out feeling better. Obviously, there's those small probabilities where um, the therapist and the client don't connect, which happens. It happens regularly where maybe I think, oh, my therapist is not hearing me out enough. And in that case, you can move therapists or have another discussion with them.
Yeah.
But just as you said, if you have a stomach ache, you ring the doctor, oh, I'm not feeling too well. What can I do? And therapy is a very safe space. Sometimes your friends give you unsolicited advice that you don't need. Maybe
Yeah.
sometimes you just need someone to hear you out. And that's what therapy is for. You go, you sit, you cry, and they'll just look at you, they'll give you the little sweets, offer you a hug. It's a very, very safe space, and I'm really, really advocating for it. And I'm very grateful that you're advocating for it as well.
Yeah, and how's the impact of the therapy sessions to the beneficiaries?
Okay, so Salama Minds started on the 18th of November in 2020. And since then, we have funded for 60 clients in Kenya. So 60 youth. Basically, what Salama Minds does is we have a group of doctors that are working in Kenya, a group of psychologists and psychiatrists. We make sure that they're verified, they have the most appropriate documentation. And what happens is on our Instagram, we have a Google form where clients will sign up and say, I want therapy. They'll answer a few basic questions. Then I will redirect them to the best doctor I find appropriate for whatever needs or why they've said they need therapy. And we pay the doctors at a very subsided rate. So we do the funding part, we bridge the gap between them finding a psychologist or a psychiatrist. That is basically our job. So we'll pay the therapists on a monthly basis, and our clients usually have a limit of 6 sessions. And if the psychologist or the psychiatrist thinks that they need more sessions, then we give them to them.
Okay, and so how do you get the funding for the
The
therapy session?
funding is through sponsors. Currently, we have been struggling with finding sponsors. So what we usually do is we reach out to the different banks, write them a proposal. Unfortunately, none of them have come through for us. So the funding comes from my parents networking. You see the neighbor next door, you say, hi, we have this organization running. Would you like to sponsor for one child? And then a bit of money will come from there. Very just through networking. So far, we haven't really had a big company or a bank or organization funding to us so we can fund for them. But that's okay. God is good. In due time, we will. And to make sure that we are very transparent with our sponsors, every month we send them signed and stamped receipts of the payments made to the psychologists and psychiatrists.
Yeah, and that's a really good impact you are having to the youths out there. And I don't know if someone has actually given you a pat on the back, because actually it's great having an organization that funds for the youth to have therapy, knowing how much mental health is a great deal to the African community and to also other people. Actually, it's a really good idea, Kushbu, and yeah, I congratulate you for it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I do hope that we can get to like have a one-on-one chat, since
Yes.
Back in my college, you said you help students from youths from 11 years to 22, and
Yes.
we also have younger teens who vary from 18 to 20. And
that's why we fund for, no matter how well off you are or how well off you're not, we'll still pay for your therapy. And just like to add something, Salama Mind funds for youth no matter what your socioeconomic background is. And a lot of people have asked us why we fund for, no matter how well off you are or how well off you're not, we'll still pay for your therapy. And one of the main reasons we decided to keep it open to all socioeconomic backgrounds is because of the stigma. We have youth who come from very well-off families, but their parents don't believe in therapy, so they don't end up going.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we didn't want to limit anybody between that age gap. Everybody and anyone is welcome.
Now, for this time, we're going to have a conversation on anxiety and PTSD. And if you've had any experience with it, because I'm also willing to share for education's sake. And so can you enlighten us more on that? Anxiety, we can start up with anxiety.
So I, Kushbu, struggle with anxiety, PTSD, and they are as a result of trauma. My anxiety comes in the form of panic attacks, overwhelming feelings of fear, catastrophizing the future. What if it doesn't work out? What's going to happen? Anxiety is both physical and mental. So I can see the physical symptoms, I can see the mental symptoms. And it's crazy because a lot of us have anxiety which manifests in different forms. People have social anxiety, people have anxiety because of exams. And it starts off as a very small thing and it keeps on growing if you don't take care of it.
And
personally, I struggle with anxiety when I'm feeling very overwhelmed, if I have a lot of work that needs to be done, deadlines need to be met. I also struggle with exam anxiety a lot. And the thing that the mental health industry does not tell us about stuff like anxiety, depression, PTSD. This is from a video that I was watching on TikTok. Our brain does not understand language. Our brain understands behavior. So if you tell, and you notice right now, if you sit and you tell yourself, oh my God, life is good, your brain is going to be like, oh, really? Is it really good? The brain understands behavior. So, for example, if you have social anxiety, the brain is comprised of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So, if you have social anxiety and you don't go to, let's say, a social event, that's you manifesting that behavior in your brain and telling your brain, yes, I actually have anxiety, by not going to that place and breaking through your comfort zone. And even when people say, get out of your comfort zone, that's exactly what they mean. You have to go and do something that makes you uncomfortable to rewire your brain into thinking and forming new good patterns that are healthy for you. So you can say, oh, but I have anxiety, I can't go to this event, I can't go and sit and do the exam, but you have to go and do it, because there's no other way for you to get over that anxiety and trick your brain into thinking you don't have anxiety if you don't go and do that behavior. And that's something that's very lacking when we listen to videos or when we think about mental health. Brain understands behavior. The two B's, brain and behavior. They are not, it's not a language. The brain is not going to understand your language. That's why the brain is very different from the body. The body can be feeling very tired. Let's say you have to go and run a marathon, and your body's saying, I can't do this. But immediately you get up and you start putting on your clothes. You're telling your brain, okay, I got this. I can do it. So I have anxiety from a lot of childhood trauma. I have not, in African and Indian households, how relationships are with your parents, they're not a very smooth ride. Sometimes our parents want us to do a certain career, and that's not what we want to do. We want to go out, and you're told no. When you ask for a reason, it's not given to you. So growing up, I feel like that was my biggest struggle. Just having a healthy relationship with my parents where we can communicate and understand each other. And over time, now, let's say when I'm having an argument with my parents, anxiety really creeps up on me. I become very paralyzed internally. I'm unable to speak, even if I want to speak, even if I know I have something to say. It has manifested in a few of my friendships where in times of distress or in times of disagreements, I'm not able to stand up for myself and voice out my opinion or my feelings and my thoughts. Because especially in the African and Indian households, we're not allowed to speak and share how we're feeling. And I feel like growing up with that, when now you start making adult friendships, adult relationships, if when you're growing up during your childhood, it was very severe where you couldn't speak for yourself, it manifests itself later in the future. So that is how I really struggle with anxiety. Sometimes waking up in the morning, I can't breathe, and I don't understand why I can't breathe. So I just have to say that anxiety for me and for a lot of people is both physical and mental. Exhaustion, you feel nauseous, you feel like you want to puke. Mentally, you just feel drained, you feel like you have a void, you're scared.
And
anxiety is something that coexists with different, I don't want to say disorders, I'm going to say things like trauma, like depression, like PTSD. So if you have a major depressive disorder, there's a test, a psychological test called the MCMI 3, if I'm not wrong. and it's a personality test. And usually when one takes it, if they're experiencing depression, it will also show high levels of anxiety. So they both coexist with one another.
Oh yeah. And as
Yeah.
for me, I feel like I usually get chest pains when I'm really anxious. And I can relate to the childhood trauma too, because it's something that I feel like it's manifesting right now. Because I've been actually growing up, I've been really shy. I wasn't outgoing, or I just feared people. I actually feared people because I feared myself. And I felt like it was due to over criticism during childhood. I don't know if it's a thing, but I find that I can't trust myself, and there's a part of body dysmorphia I am not proud of who I'm becoming, and that gives me anxiety a lot. Even getting to interact with people or go to events, I feel like I should not attend because I don't feel people will appreciate me, or people will appreciate my body or how it looks like, because I've always felt that other people look better than me. It's because of the criticism I faced when I was growing up. And I feel like it's been a big issue even in uni. You get comments that really disrupt your life because people comment on how skinny you are, and it's every single time. And they keep comparing you to other people, and they keep just, that those mocking words that just make you feel bad about yourself, and you feel like you can't tolerate yourself and you hate yourself. So I feel like I've suffered a lot. That's why I've been seeking therapy and trying to adjust my diet. But there's this part of me that wanted to change myself so that I can be accepted by other people. And it's been quite a long journey. I'm actually facing it right now. If someone asks me how I I have overcome that issue, I can't say that I've really dealt with it because it's still an issue right now and I'm seeking attention. So I feel like it's something, anxiety, social anxiety, it's something that really it exists and people should seek help.
It does. And just from what you said, I hope this does not come as me being disrespectful, but
Mhm.
again, in the African communities, the way as children we're raised to be very, very good kids, people of substance, I have to say, the
Mhm.
harsh parenting. But I feel like the more you over criticize, you're
Mhm.
telling your child that they're not good enough. Today,
Mhm.
sometimes I sit with myself, and if I haven't gotten, let's say, a certain mark in school, it takes
Mhm.
me back to when I was young and remembering, oh, this one told me this was not good enough.
Yeah.
So I'm not doing good enough. I'm not going to ever be good enough. And that's a very, very big problem. It comes out in very many different ways. You'll be wearing something and someone will make a nasty comment or just
Yeah.
a comment, and you'll say, damn, I'm actually not good enough. So it's very crazy how anxiety manifests itself. And what people fail to understand is, yes, we're grown, but if you don't go back into your childhood and dig deep about how you were raised, what things affected you, you're not going to get better, because it
Yeah.
always starts from when you were a child. How was your brain rewired? For example, my mother is great. She
Mhm.
has sacrificed a lot for me,
Yeah.
too much for me. I'm an only child. Um, I lost my train of thought. Um,
Okay.
yes. So my mom is a very, very, she's a great mom.
Mhm.
Um, for a long time, it was just me and my mom living together.
Mhm.
And the way she raised me, I always like to make a joke about it, was very robotic, army style. So you have to wake up at 6. You can't not wake up at 6 in the morning. You have to have brushed your teeth by 7 p.m., in bed by 7 p.m. 1 minute late, you're being whooped. No reason. 1 minute late. Why are you 1 minute late? And those things, the harder you push, the worse it becomes.
Yeah.
And so I joke about it right now, but I do see how, like, a lot of the beating, a lot of the over criticizing. I know as parents, they have this ideology of, if I criticize my child, they'll do better. But
Yeah.
sometimes criticism doesn't work for everybody. And it has taken a lot of time for my parents to understand that that's not the way to go. Because we need positive reinforcement as kids growing up. And that time below 10 years old, that period is very, very essential for your brain to grow, to process, to
Yeah.
understand. So you will notice someone who, for example, was sexually harassed during that age group, that age period, they suffer from anxiety right now. And they might not even know that it's because of what happened to them at that time.
Yeah.
And so it's very, very essential in terms of anxiety to sit down and just think about how you grew up, the conditions, the environment that fostered your growth, to understand how to be better or how to get out of that situation. And again, according to a study carried out by the University of Nairobi, the repository, 25% of people in Kenya suffer from anxiety. And that is a wrong number. I have to say, especially in Kenya, I've done a lot of research about these statistics, and they the population, the sample that they use is not a representation of the whole population. So
Yeah.
that 25% is a very, very low number to begin with. And things need to change. There's a very big flaw in the Kenyan health system, in the mental health system. Even the numbers they put out on the internet, they're wrong, because they don't sample the whole population. They leave the low income people. It's just clustered to a very, very small sample. It's not a representation. Things need to change. I don't believe, and I know you also don't believe, only 25% of the population struggles from anxiety. The number is definitely higher. Even big stars like Adele, I was watching her interview. She struggled from anxiety after her marriage. After she got divorced, she talked about how she couldn't get out of bed. She couldn't create the beautiful work that she needed to, because anxiety is very, very paralyzing. To me, it's very, very paralyzing. I start shaking. I go literally, like, my mind is racing. It goes to different places that don't need to go, and just advice about how to overcome it. Small things that people can do. Drink a very cold glass of water. Step into the shower in very, very cold water. And anytime your mind is going in the negative rut of that overwhelming fear, just ask yourself, what if things go right?
Yeah, there's
A
always that
video,
possibility.
another video, the lady that was speaking, she said, when you're feeling this overwhelming anxiety, overwhelming fear, let's say you're in a plane and the plane is bumpy, instead of thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna die, think about, what if I land safely? It's all in the mind. It's all about the way you talk to yourself, the way you nourish your mind, the good thoughts that we give to ourselves. As fast as people are ready to believe their failures, I think people should be as quick to believe that they will succeed. Because if you go to think about it, when you have anxiety or whenever you're struggling mentally, you're feeling down, we're so quick to get into that negative thought cycle, the negative rut. If you failed an exam, oh, I'm a failure. And you manifest it into you and you keep it with you. But what if we start telling ourselves, I am the prize, I am successful? And the more you keep reinforcing yourself with positive thoughts, you become better.
Yeah, and you said that the brain captures the behavior. And if we
Yeah.
start behaving in a more positive light, I feel like our brain will pick that up and will start vibrating to a more positive energy.
Yes, we have to vibrate and reach our higher selves. That is
Yeah.
the goal. You just get up. One thing that I personally enjoy doing when I'm feeling low, when I'm feeling anxious, I'll go to the mirror, I'll do my skincare, I'll
Mm-hmm.
put some makeup, dress nice, and instantly you feel so much better because
Mm-hmm.
you're dressed up, you're no longer in your pajamas, you're no longer in bed, you're
Mm-hmm.
dressed up, ready to take a walk outside, even if you're going nowhere. It's the behavior.
Yeah, and Kushbu, as we wrap up, because I feel like we have talked about anxiety and how it manifests and how we can overcome it, I would like to know the goals for Salama Minds, for the mental health industry.
The goals for Salama Minds, I want, well, my mother and I, because
Mm-hmm.
currently I'm in Canada, I study in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So she primarily takes care of the funding.
Yeah.
My mom has been very, very great in networking, got us a lot of the money that
Mm-hmm.
we fund for therapy. She's the one who gets the reports, receipts from the doctors.
Mm-hmm.
The goals for Salama Minds is we want to take it and make, like, we want Salama Minds to be all over Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Number one. Number two, we'd really like more funding from whoever that wants. Even 100 shillings goes a long way. Even if it's 10 shillings goes a
Mm-hmm.
really long way. I want Salama Minds to be a revolution,
Yeah.
especially Africa, be it contacting different psychologists and psychiatrists in different countries around Africa. We can start with East Africa. The
Mm-hmm.
goal is to go big and go hard. If not, we're going home.
Yeah.
Um, and just help educate as many youth as possible, because it's the youth, we are the future.
Mm-hmm.
We are the future. So the goal is to go global, to go
Yeah.
hard, get more funding. I'd really like to work with the Kenyan health system in the government
Mm-hmm.
as well. We are a registered NGO,
Yeah.
an officially registered NGO in Kenya. And yeah,
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kushbu. I
thank you.
feel like, yeah, we have a lot to talk about, but my time is elapsing. And the studio that I had booked earlier has another person coming in. So I feel
It's
like we
okay.
can continue with the conversation because we haven't dealt more on PTSD. So I'll just schedule another
Okay.
session. But this is a win for us since we have been communicating a lot, and I'm
I
grateful.
really appreciate it. I also really appreciate it. And message me. We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we actually do.
Don't
Okay,
be shy. We're going through the same things.
yeah. So I'll
And I'm
stay in
very
touch.
grateful for this opportunity. Thank you so, so much for speaking to me. I know I'm very far away and you've been very accommodative. Please say asante to your team. I
Mhm.
appreciate it so, so much.
And I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Next time we'll have to do better.
Okay, don't worry about it. Network.
Okay, bye. I'll stay in touch.